3 spine-chilling true thunderstorm horror tales, revealed secrets of the cursed night alone. Lisa stumbled up the steps of her rundown home, the echo of thunder rattling her bones, just as the noise turned to a mournful howl. The storm outside raged with a furious desperation, yet her own heart felt even heavier. She was a weary single mother, and the weight of her long shifts at the diner clung to her skin like a thick fog. The night air was too still, too quiet. Something was off. "Where's Jake?" She whispered to the empty house, a cold shiver running up her spine. Pouring herself a mug of lukewarm coffee, she tried to shake off that unsettling feeling. The flickering light from the old bulb barely illuminated the rugged walls where memories of better days loomed. Usually, she could count on Jake to be holed away in his room, blaring music or hammering away at video games. Instead, silence wrapped around her. It was too calming, too eerie for a night like tonight, when the storm unleashed a furious crack of lightning, illuminating the rain-drenched streets outside. In that flash, Lisa caught sight of a shadow. Her heart stopped. That's when her old fears rushed back, tales of children going missing in Maplewood returned like whispered warnings in her mind. But surely, those stories couldn't be real, could they? Just then, her phone buzzed violently on the table. Mr. Hargrove's anxious voice cut through the tension. "I saw Jake outside, Lisa. He was wandering in the storm without his coat." Panic clawed at her throat, choking the air from her lungs. The lights flickered one last time before plunging the house into darkness. How long had he been gone? She thought, the dread pulling at her chest. Had he really wandered out into the storm? Without a second thought, she rushed out into the chaos, rain and wind battering her like an angry beast. "Jake!" she shouted, but her voice was no match for the deafening roar of the storm. The familiar streets morphed into a nightmarish labyrinth, shadows darting just beyond her periphery. Heart racing, she plunged deeper, each step feeling like she was crossing into a realm of unending horror. The howling wind shrieked like a banshee as she arrived at the edge of the woods. Everything was twisted in desperation. The chilling reality hit her like a slap. Jake's jacket lay abandoned near the trees. The fabric, drenched and clinging to the muck, sent a shockwave of terror through her body. "No," she gasped, a cold sweat enveloping her. As she turned back towards the safety of her home, darkness surrounded her like a thick fog. Suddenly, the thunder crashed, revealing a shape just beyond the tree line. Was it a trick of the light or the shadow of something more sinister? Just as she felt the creeping dread wrap tighter around her chest, a thought stabbed through the fog of panic. The whispers her neighbor, Mr. Hargrove, had always shown an unsettling interest in the community's children. She pushed the thought aside when another crack of thunder shattered the air, and the shadows seemed to deepen, pulsing with a life of their own. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With each heartbeat, Lisa felt a grotesque reel of horror playing out in her mind. Jake was out in the storm, alone and vulnerable, while somewhere, someone was lurking, waiting. She glanced back toward the woods. There was something watching her. A primal fear ignited. She wasn't just confronting the storm but an antique evil that had seeped deep into the bones of Maplewood. Her instincts screamed for her to run, yet something unfathomable drew her back closer to the darkness. With the knowledge that time was slipping away, the storm grew, echoing her own turmoil as she stood poised at the edge of a nightmare. The rain poured, lightning cracked overhead illuminating a figure in the distance. Her mind spiraled. What if she wasn't the only one searching for Jake? What else lurked in the shadows, waiting for them to take the next step? The chilling thought settled in her gut. One way or another, she needed to uncover the dark truth before it consumed everything she loved. Would Lisa find her son before he became just another ghost in the whispers of Maplewood? The wind howled, a monstrous voice that filled the night with despair. Lisa's heart raced as she stood frozen, consumed by fear. The only sound was the storm's fury and her punishing breaths, struggling to fill her lungs as doubt clouded her mind. She had to find Jake. As the lightning flickered like the strobe of a demon's flash, she squinted into the dark abyss of the woods, where the twisted branches clawed at the sky. Jake! She shouted his name again, desperation clinging to her words. The damp air swallowed her call, leaving her to wonder if the forest itself had consumed her son, pulling him into its gaping maw. Frustration clawed at her, threatening to overwhelm her. She took a tremulous step into the shadowy depths. A shiver ran down her spine. The woods felt alive, whispering her fears back to her. Thunder crashed again, shaking the ground beneath her feet. She pressed onward, her heart throbbing like a war drum. Stay calm, she thought, but the mantra fell flat in her mind. With every step, each droplet of rain felt like icy fingers reaching out to clutch her tighter. The forest closed in around her, shadows twisting, dancing mockingly. She tightened her grip on her flashlight, its beam flickering as if sharing her trepidation, but then, she froze. Something stirred, a low rustle in the brush, too deliberate, too intentional to be an animal. Her breath hitched. The stories of the missing children resurfaced like ghosts from her childhood, voices echoing around her in the dark. Had they been taken? Would Jake join their ranks tonight? Jake! She screamed, terror lacing her voice. Answer me. Silence engulfed her, heavy and oppressive. Just as hopelessness threatened to sink its teeth into her heart, she caught a glimpse of movement. A small figure moved deeper into the woods, an outline outlined by a distant flash of lightning. Jake! She gasped, launching herself forward, driven by a mixture of terror and fierce love. The more she ran, the more profound the silence became, as if the storm itself had hushed in anticipation. Each step reverberated against the pulsing heart of the storm, but she was getting closer. The figure moved again, now darting behind a tree, leaving her breathless. Confusion crept into her mind. Is that Jake, or something else entirely? Wait! Stop! She pushed herself faster, but as she approached, a dreadful recognition washed over her. It was not Jake, it was a mirage, a sinister trick played by the darkness. The shadows twisted and shifted, mocking her desperation. Panic clawed at her throat. And then, the beam of her flashlight caught something, an outline on the ground, a small, familiar object, Jake's favorite toy car, half buried in the mud. Heart pounding, she knelt to retrieve it, the realization striking her like a bolt of lightning. This whole night was turning into a nightmare deeper than she had imagined. What was happening to her son? Suddenly, a deafening howl pierced the air, clear and chilling. It was far too human. It sent her spiraling into an abyss of torment. Panic surged as she turned back to run, but the storm twisted, revealing shapes, hundreds of shadows circling around her, moving ever closer. Just then, a voice echoed that sent cold terror pooling in her gut. Did you lose something, Lisa? It was Mr. Hargrove. She could see him now, standing at the edge of the tree line, that sinister glimmer of interest in his eyes. What do you want? She shouted, fear ripping her voice, but the only answer was the rhythm of the storm, the tightening grip of darkness, and the chilling sound of screams echoing from the depths of the woods. As he stepped closer, his shadow loomed larger, and the wind carried a heart-stopping laugh tinged with madness. And in that moment, Lisa knew she was not alone. The horrors of Maplewood had awakened, and they weren't about to let her leave empty-handed. Would she confront the evil lurking in the shadows before it consumed her whole? Or would she become yet another name whispered in the town's dark folklore? The forest seemed to pulse, the darkness thickening like a cloak around her. Lisa's heart raced, the horror of Mr. Hargrove's presence slinking into the corners of her mind. What did he know? Did he hold answers, or was he part of the nightmarish puzzle? Get away from me! She shouted, but her voice quivered, barely cutting through the tempest. Shadows shifted more than just figments of her fear. They lurked, intertwining with the gnarled branches, breathing in unison with the storm. Lisa felt exposed, vulnerable. The rain pelted down, and every drop felt like an accusation for not finding Jake Damar. Hargrove stepped closer, his eyes gleaming like predatory stars. "You shouldn't be here, Lisa. This place, it's not for the faint of heart." His smooth voice dripped with a dangerous calm that made her skin crawl. "I'm looking for my son." The words erupted from her, raw and jagged. "Have you seen him?" She thought of the toy car in her pocket, the aroma of wet earth mingled with the sweetness of childhood now toxic in her grasp. His laughter danced between the raindrops, chilling her to the bone. "Isn't that what they all say? Searching for someone but the forest? It never lets go. You're just a visitor in a long line of lost souls." Lisa stepped back, panic surging through her veins. The shadows flared around them, thickening, alive. "What do you mean?" He leaned in, a predator relishing its prey. "They come to the woods for solace. For answers, but they don't come back, do they? Like your little Jake." She gasped, eyes wide, collapsing under the weight of his words. "No. You're lying." A blinding flash of lightning illuminated the chaos around her, shivering branches, dripping leaves, and the shadows circling with hungry intent. "Does it feel familiar? The weight?" He taunted, his voice echoing like a taunting ghost. "The fear? I can show you what happens when the night claims you." In that moment, Lisa felt a tug at her heart, the cry of a mother drowning in despair. Focusing on what mattered, she forced herself to stand tall against the fear that threatened to strangle her. "I will find him. I want to let you take me." Determination ignited within her, burning away the creeping dread. "Haven't you yet learned?" He hissed, the shadows swirling like a storm of whispers. "It's too late. Can you hear them?" Then, she heard it, a muffled cry, faint but unmistakable. "Jake!" It was him. Her heart soared, a beacon slicing through the darkness. But then, the forest responded in malice, branches creaking like skeletal fingers reaching for her. "Jake!" She screamed, racing toward the sound, but it twisted into mocking laughter, bending her resolve. The laughter was everywhere now, seeping from the trees, wrapping around her like chains. Lisa sprinted, adrenaline surging as she plunged deeper into the woods, where shadows writhed like serpents. Her flashlight flickered and died, leaving her in complete blackness. Panic gripped her throat, each breath a desperate gasp. Where was he? That cry. It cut through her like a blade. She couldn't turn back. "Foolish woman," Mr. Hargrove's voice trailed behind her, a sinister whispering echo that sent shivers down her spine. "You can't escape the truth. It's in the shadows, lurking, waiting." A new sound emerged, a rustling sliding against the damp earth, something thick and alive. It curled around her ankles, a vine of darkness squeezing tighter. "Jake!" She cried once more, and this time, the answer was a chilling silence. Her heart sank as she halted, breathless and trembling. She was standing at the edge of a clearing. The air grew dense, suffocating. And there, on the ground, she saw small footprints leading away into the darker shadows, a child's footprints. Clarity hit her like a punch. But then, as she squinted against the dark, caught sight of glimmers glistening like teeth. It wasn't the sparkle of hope, this was worse. Faceless figures emerged, surrounding her, their whispers merging with the howling wind. Lisa stood frozen, fear tightening around her. Blade-like, was Jake among them? "Join us," they murmured, voices blending into a hypnotic call. As she teetered on the brink of insanity, the terror of realization washed over her. Her quest to save Jake was now a dance with the damned. Would she break free from this nightmare or accept her fate as part of the malevolent darkness that enveloped Maplewood? The whispers grew louder, spiraling into a cacophony that felt like claws scraping against her sanity. Lisa strained her ears, trying to decipher the eerie murmur, but every word slipped through her fingers like sand. Her instincts screamed for her to run, yet her feet remained frozen in place, entranced by the shadowy figures surrounding her. "Join us," they repeated, pulling her closer into their web of despair. Their faceless forms flickered, shifting like smoke against the twisted branches. Each was a fragment of darkness, a lingering essence of the forest, each reminding her of the lost souls they had consumed. "Jake!" She shouted again, but the forest swallowed her voice, taking it deep into the blackness like a thief. Panic clawed at her throat. She turned to escape, only to find her path obstructed by a solid wall of shadows. The figures closed in, forming a circle, their presence suffocating. Desperation surged. She spotted a small gap, barely wide enough to squeeze through. Heart pounding like a drum, she darted for it. A heavy mist rose around her, chilling her skin to the bone as the shadows howled in frustration. Lisa tumbled forward and stumbled into a deeper part of the woods, where the air felt thick and alive. Every breath tasted of decay and isolation. She clenched the toy car in her pocket, feeling its familiar smoothness ground her in this chaos. Suddenly, a blinding flash illuminated the world in front of her. For a brief second, she saw the figures standing at the edge of the clearing, their shimmering forms reflecting the light like eyes watching her from within a nightmare. Their silence pierced her ears as flash after flash of lightning lit the way. "Jake!" she shouted again, voice cracking. The shadows seemed to dance now, teasing her every word. Then she heard a faint laugh, a sweet, innocent sound that shredded her heart. No! It couldn't be. Was that really him? With renewed strength, she forced herself forward, propelled by hope and horror. But as she took a step, the ground beneath her began to shift. Roots and vines twisted, writhing up from the soil like angry serpents, wrapping around her legs, pulling her down into the mire. "Let go!" she shrieked, trying to tear herself free. The forest responded, the whispers growing louder, weaving a spell of despair so thick she could almost taste it. The air crackled with unseen energy, vibrating against her skin. "Please, I need to find my son." The faint laughter faded, replaced by that same hollow, haunting noise, the mocking of the forest. It laughed at her plight, the shadows slithering toward her inch by inch, eager to drag her into their eternal darkness, and suddenly, from the depth of that heavy silence, a new voice emerged, soft yet piercing. "Mommy?" Her heart shattered, agony mingling with hope. "Jake! Where are you?" she cried, frantically searching the darkness, feeling the shadows tightening around her like a vice. Another flash of lightning split the sky, and she saw him, a small figure standing on the edge of the clearing, his frightened eyes gleaming. "Mommy!" he shouted again, hands outstretched. But the shadows roared and surged forward, blocking him from her sight. The figures began to swirl, a whirlpool of darkness aiming to snatch him away, to keep him just out of reach. "Jake!" Lisa lunged, desperation flooding her senses as the grips of terror pulled at her psyche, threatening to engulf her. The ground shook as treetops creaked, groaned, the forest's fury unleashed. "Run!" Lisa screamed, torn between saving her son and the grasping shadows. She took a step back, willing the terror to break. The forest responded by wrapping tighter, trying to claim her soul. As the storm raged on, she already knew it was no longer just the forest trapping them. It was something much darker, something that thrived on fear. But in that moment, something inside her ignited a primal instinct to fight for her child, a protective rage that coursed through her veins. The whispers faded for a heartbeat, as if sensing her resolve, as she lunged once more toward Jake. Would she reach him in time, or would both mother and child be lost in the shadows that swallowed them whole? Lisa's heart raced. The darkness consumed everything, swallowing the glimmers of hope she clung to. She could not lose him. Not now. Not after everything. As she charged forward, the roots tightened their grip, sending a shock of cold terror through her body. "Jake!" She screamed again, a hoarse whisper now, barely escaping her lips. The shadows shrieked a chorus of laughter. Oh, how they mocked her while the wind howled, merciless against her resolve. She could see Jake, mere feet away, the flicker of his small hands reaching out, as if he too were beckoned by the same invisible force that threatened to tear them apart. In a surge of adrenaline, Lisa focused on the space between them. She would break through. The primal instinct drowned out the echoes of despair as she pulled against the roots that clutched her. The ground roared beneath her, vibrating like the beating of a sinister heart. As another bolt of lightning clashed above, illuminating the dismal landscape, the shadows seemed to hesitate. For the briefest moment, she saw the haunting faces behind the dark tendrils, their eyes glimmered with gluttonous hunger, shadows of lost children twisted into remnants of the despair that surrounded her. "Stop!" she shouted, her voice strong against the thunder. "I will not let you take him." The word seemed to ignite something in her, a defiance that rippled through the air. The shadows recoiled, surprised by the fierce strength in her shout. "Mommy!" His voice, so fragile yet urgent, sliced through the chaos. He was hers. She had to save him. In an instant, she pulled with everything she had. The roots and vines shrieked as she broke free. The cold earth and their biting grasp surrendered to her sheer will. She sprinted forward, arms outstretched, heart thundering like the storm overhead. But as she reached for him, the shadows shuddered, responding like silhouettes drawn to light. For every step she took, they clawed back at her from the darkness, slithering, hissing, eager to reclaim their lost prize. The world erupted in another burst of lightning. She could feel her soul, raw and exposed, pulsing in sync with the storm. Then, out of the din, a stronger voice called, "Mommy, please." Lisa's spirit ignited. In that moment, she was not just a mother, she was a force, a raging fire hungry to blaze across the darkness. She pushed against the swirling shadows, breaking through the tangled mass with a ferocity she didn't know she possessed. "I'm coming!" she cried, lunging through the chaos. The shadows shrieked, anger echoing through the trees. They were a prison, a web of despair, desperate to keep them apart. As she reached out, her fingers barely brushed against Jake's small hands. There was warmth. Hope surged within her like a tidal wave. "Hold on to me." But just as their fingers entwined, the forest convulsed, the ground trembling beneath their feet. The shadows retaliated, surging forward, 1,000 ghostly limbs eager to reclaim their prize. The trees bent violently, as if the very spirit of the forest was resentful of what it was losing, and suddenly, the laughter returned, louder, more sinister, a dreadful sound that enveloped her very being. It echoed, taunting, weaving into her thoughts, "You think you can escape?" The forest shook with fury. With a final crack of thunder, the path behind them vanished, cloaked in a curtain of shadows, sealing off their escape. "Mommy!" Jake cried again, terror flooding his voice. "No! I won't lose you!" Lisa shouted, panic clawing at her throat. They stood at the precipice of oblivion, shadows swirling around them like a hellish tornado. She felt a splitting pain in her chest, a profound sense of dread that whispered the truth: they were not just escaping the forest. They were fleeing something far more sinister, something that thrived on fear and took joy in tearing families apart. As the shadows closed in, clinging to her like suffocating fog, Lisa's mind raced. What was the truth hidden in this forest? What did it truly want? "Mommy, I'm scared." Jake whimpered, and with that utterance, the laughter crescendoed. There was no time left. They needed to confront what lay ahead. But in that moment of despair, realization dawned. The forest wasn't just a prisoner of darkness, it was a keeper of secrets. And unless they understood those secrets, they would remain trapped. What lay ahead in the encroaching shadows could determine their fate or seal their doom. Would they uncover the truth, or would the darkness claim them both as victims of its insatiable hunger? Lisa's mind fogged with panic, the laughter laced with malice ringing in her ears. She tugged at Jake's small hands, the warmth felt like a lifeline, a fragile connection in an abyss of dread. The shadows writhed, hungry for her hope, clawing at the edges of her vision like lurking predators. "We need to move," she urged, her voice trembling yet sharp enough to cut through the cacophony. Her feet sunk into the shifting ground, each step a battle against the weight of despair wrapping around her like chains of ice. She looked into Jake's wide, terrified eyes, and saw not just fear but a shared understanding. They could not succumb. With a fierce determination, she pulled him toward the dark thicket ahead. The treetops formed a forbidding arch above them, twisted branches reaching as if warning them away. Yet their only choice lay forward, deeper into the heart of the nightmare. The shadows hissed, a serpentine whisper that curled around her thoughts. It felt as if a million eyes were watching, waiting to see what they would do next. Every instinct screamed at her to turn back, to flee from the cutting cold that seeped into her bones. But behind her, the howling laughter beckoned. "Stay with us," it crooned, seductive and sweet. Lightning flickered overhead, and for a heartbeat, she glimpsed the faces behind the shadowed forms, charred remnants of souls lost, their eyes pleading, their mouths caught in silent screams. "Mommy!" Jake whimpered again, pulling her from her stupor. She hugged him closer, feeling the fragile pulse of life against her. They could get through this. They had to. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shuddered violently, and the shadows surged forward like a tidal wave, eager to reclaim their lost prey. Lisa gritted her teeth, feeling the roots begin to coil around her ankles once more, a vice grip threatening to drag her back into despair. "Together. We can do this together," she shouted, trying to rally both herself and Jake. He nodded, terror in his eyes, and they took off again, racing as fast as they could stumble through the darkness. As they broke into a clearing bathed in eerie moonlight, the shadows paused, a collective breath held in the tension of the air. Lisa felt a flicker of hope, maybe they had escaped, but then the ground crackled and seethed, and she watched in horror as the shadows shimmered, coalescing into a monstrous figure. It stood taller than the trees, a heaving mass of darkness, with glowing eyes that pierced through the night. It smiled, a wide, gaping maw of rotting teeth, echoing the laughter of the damned. "Did you really think you could escape?" it roared, the sound shaking her bones. Jake clutched at her leg, trembling, as Lisa's heart dropped into her stomach. The figure loomed closer, and she felt the moisture in the air thicken with dread. The secrets of this forest, the memories buried within it, clashed violently in her mind. What had it been waiting for? A dark instinct whispered to her, and she realized this wasn't just about her and Jake. The creature fed on fear, on their despair. It thrived on the very emotions that had almost consumed them. "Listen to me," Lisa shouted, forcing the words past the fear constricting her throat. "You want to take us. We know what you are." The figure hesitated, confusion flickering across its ghastly features. In that moment of vulnerability, a plan took shape in her mind, echoing the glimmers of hope she had fought so hard to retain. "Come on, Jake, we have to show it what we can become," she said, determination fueling her voice. As they stood firm against the monster, she felt a sudden rush of power. They were not just prey, they could turn the fear back on itself, but would it be enough? With the shadows roaring around them, they pressed forward, ready to confront the beast once and for all. The wind howled louder, a warning or perhaps a prayer. They had reached the ultimate threshold between light and darkness. Would they emerge victorious, or be devoured by the very fear meant to chain them? The truth loomed ahead, waiting to be unearthed, hidden in the torment of the shadows and the laughter that followed. The monstrous figure towered, its glowing eyes boring into Lisa's soul. A pit opened inside of her as she realized how deep the darkness ran. The shadows beckoned from behind, insidious tendrils curling towards her with an unquenchable thirst. "Jake!" she cried, her voice thick with panic, forcing herself to meet pressure with fierceness. Hold fast. We can't let it win. The earth trembled, agitated by the creature's presence. Each heartbeat felt like a countdown, time's sand slipping through her fingers. She sensed the pulse of the forest around them, an entity of fear and memory, thrumming with a dreadful life of its own. She glanced at Jake, his small body trembling, eyes brimming with tears. His innocence broke her heart. "I need you to be brave," she urged, summoning every ounce of strength she had left. "Mommy, I can't," he whimpered, the sound raw and terrified. "Yes, you can. Remember what we talked about? Fear can be a tool. We can fight." The words pulled from her like a lifeline thrown to a drowning sailor. The creature's laughter echoed like thunder, rumbling beneath them, and she thought she saw something flicker in the monster's eyes, a flicker of doubt. Perhaps it didn't expect resistance. With a deep breath to calm herself, Lisa formed a defiant front, stepping into the moonlight as though it were armor. "You thrive on fear, but we've felt it for too long." Jake stepped forward, his small hands trembling but resolute. "We'll fight together," he echoed, his voice wavering yet fierce. The shadows recoiled slightly as if hit by a sudden gust of wind. In that brief moment, Lisa felt a strange energy surge within her, a flicker of something greater than fear. The laughter dissipated into a low, guttural growl, feeding off the pressure of their resolve. "See? You're scared." Lisa pressed, eyes locked on the beast. "You don't know what we're capable of when we stand together." With that utterance, something shifted. The ground seemed to ripple, and the shadows once conspirators in the great dark now appeared less formidable, shrinking back as though the brightness of their unity pierced through the veil of despair. The monster screamed, its voice a cacophony of rage and confusion. "You think you are brave? I will feast on your fear." "No!" Jake shouted, voice finding strength above the storm. "You are a coward." The words hung in the thick air, suspended like a promise. Lisa felt the warmth spread between them, a bond forged in the fire of their fear. They could leverage this moment of clarity, this brief silence before chaos erupted. Suddenly, the ground heaved once more. The creature lunged forward, a dark wave crashing as its maw stretched impossibly wide. Lisa's heart raced. "Now, Jake." In a movement fueled by terror and defiance, they reached for each other, fingers intertwining. As they stood united, they exhaled a breath of determination. Their shared strength spilled forth like a beacon, forcing the shadows to dissipate, fracturing the creature's grip on their minds. But the beast roared an earth-shaking sound that threatened to drown their courage. The darkness encroached again, a looming threat snaking closer through the clearing, and Lisa felt the ground quaking beneath her, pushing them ever closer to the edge of despair. "No! We will not let fear control us!" she screamed. And as the shadows surged forward, everything turned chaotic, a maelstrom of dark and light, clashing violently. In the heart of the storm, she sensed a truth waiting to be grasped. It wasn't just the creature they needed to defeat. It was the fear that festered within, the memories leading them to this moment. The air crackled with untapped potential, a spark needing air. "Let us show it the power of hope," she shouted, clenching Jake's hand tighter. Together they stood against the thing that haunted them, ready to pierce the veil of terror that surrounded them. She could feel something shift in the air, but was it too late? The shadows lunged again, and as darkness enveloped them, uncertainty roared louder than ever. Could they truly harness what lay within, or would they become just another story lost to the shadows? The dark wave crashed down, and Lisa felt a jolt of cold terror shoot through her core. Jake's grip tightened, his small fingers like a vice, and together they stood against the beast, their hearts pounding louder than the monster's roars. A whirlwind of shadows spiraled around them, threatening to swallow them whole. But Lisa refused to look away from the creature. Each glowing eye seemed to draw in the light, sucking the hope from the air like a vacuum. "Focus on hope," Lisa yelled, her voice shaking but resolute. "Remember the stories, the times we laughed and felt safe. In a moment that felt like forever, she searched Jake's face for strength, remembering their camping trips, the crackling fire, the stories shared under the stars. The shadows ebbed slightly at the thought, though their tendrils still snaked closer. "Think of the light," she urged. "We are more than what you fear, monster." The creature paused, confusion flickering in its eyes. For that brief moment, the raging storm around them stilled. The darkness wavered. Could they harness this rare chance? "Keep thinking of good times, Jake." As Lisa spoke those words, she felt a surge of warmth wash over her. Memories of sun-soaked days and laughter played in her mind like a movie reel. She closed her eyes briefly, envisioning a soft glow breaking through the dark clouds, light mingling with the shadows. Jake squeezed her hand and whispered, "I remember," and then, as if on cue, it happened. A pulse of golden light radiated between them, brightening the forest floor, illuminating the oppressive darkness swirling around. The creature's furious roar tore through the brightness, but it was a sound tinged with terror. Shadows writhed as the light pierced them, causing the tendrils to burn like dry leaves in fire. "It's hurting," Jake cried, realizing the power they wielded. "Yes. It can't stand our light," Lisa encouraged, emboldened by her son's discovery. "We can drive it away together." The shadows hissed and recoiled, but as they did, sheer terror wrapped around Lisa's chest, squeezing with an iron grip. What if they failed? What if the light wasn't enough? "Keep it up, Jake. We can't back down now." But could they? Doubt thundered in her mind as the creature gathered itself, its form growing larger, angrier. An echoing snarl escaped its maw as the shadows contorted, re-energized by the fear that bubbled up again. Suddenly, the beast lunged toward them, its dark maw opening wide like a chasm waiting to swallow everything whole. "Now, Jake. Hold on tight." With adrenaline coursing through her veins, they stood their ground, ready to unleash all their bundled hope and light. The air crackled once more as they pushed against the darkness, their shared spirit growing stronger. "Hope. Faith. Love." Lisa shouted, feeling the words pulse with energy, but it wasn't enough. The ground shook violently, and Lisa felt the earth beneath her feet shift like quicksand. "Mommy. It's coming." Jake screamed, panic erupting in his voice. "No!" she shouted, wrestling with the overwhelming darkness and the fear creeping back into her own heart. "We're stronger. We will not be consumed." But as the creature barreled down on them, Lisa realized with growing horror that perhaps it wasn't just the creature that threatened to destroy them. What waited beneath, beyond the fear itself? What dark truths did they hide? The shadows lunged, claiming the air. In that moment of sheer panic, something deep stirred within them, a memory, a truth lurking in the depths. Would it revive them or sever their bond? They had to fight, to know. And as the dark chasm opened wide, swallowing the light before them, they were left with one haunting question echoing in the dark: what would they discover about themselves if they fell into the abyss? The darkness engulfed them, the beast's howl swallowed by an overwhelming silence. Lisa felt the ground fall away, the sense of floating turning into a wild, spiraling descent. Her heart raced. Would they land in safety, or were they simply heading deeper into the monster's lair, locked in its impending doom? "Jake!" she shouted, but her voice echoed as if they were miles apart. The light between them flickered, wavering under the weight of the looming shadows. "I'm here, Mommy." Jake's voice trembled, sharp as glass, yet he clung onto her hand, a lifeline in a swirling void. With a force that defied logic, the shadows pulled at them, whispering secrets hidden in the depths of their own fears. Old memories, long buried, surfaced flashes of regret, moments of vulnerability, each pulse like a suffocating fist around Lisa's throat. "Think of something beautiful," she cried out. "We can do this." But the deep chill in her bones gnawed at her spirit. What if the beautiful memories they summoned were nothing more than illusions, easily shattered? The thought echoed through her mind like a drum, relentless and cruel. Then came the voice's soft, seductive whispers flickering just beyond the rage of the beast. "You're not strong enough, you'll never win, let it in, surrender." Lisa's resolve began to falter. She could feel the warmth of hope slipping through her fingers like sand. "No!" she screamed, trying to shake off the grasping hands of despair. Jake's grip tightened on her. "Mommy, don't listen. We have to fight." His determination kindled a spark in her chest. The innocence in his plea pulled her out of the fog of doubt. "Jake, close your eyes. Remember the fire, the crackling wood, the warmth that wrapped around us." She breathed deeply, summoning strength from the depths of her love for him. The memories flooded in like a tide, swirling up through the dark corners of her mind. Suddenly, they were back there, the camping trips under the starry sky, the laughter bubbling, the soft glow of the fire lighting their faces, its warmth chasing away the night's chill. And as Lisa held on to those memories, she felt a surge of light, rekindled and radiating from them. "Together!" she shouted, feeling the touch of Jake's hand in hers, each heartbeat synchronizing into a powerful rhythm. "Light up the dark." The golden glow that surged between them burst forth, illuminating the abyss, pushing back against the shadows that loomed like monsters they once created in their minds. The whispers turned into screams, the shadows cursing and writhing as light consumed them, yet, the victory was short-lived. The creature's wrath mirrored the chaos around them, eyes narrowing with fury, the depths from which it rose battling against the golden resonance. "It was not done yet. I feel it, Jake." Lisa gasped. "It wants us to fall. Don't let go." But as they clung to each other, the darkness began to shift again. The shimmer of light was fading, drowning in the weight of relentless despair. For every ounce of warmth they conjured, the shadows fought back with tenacity, enshrouding them in chaos. What if? The thought flitted across Lisa's mind like a moth to a flame. What if they weren't meant to fight this battle at all? Desperation clawed at her heart. Was surrendering the key to their survival? Jake's eyes widened, filled with fear. "Mommy! It's pulling us down." The last glimmer of their light flickered uncertainly as the chasm yawned, sinister and cold. What new horrors awaited them if they succumbed? And what truths would they discover if they dared to surrender? With no clear path left, the choices loomed in front of them like a wall of shadows. What would they risk to save themselves? As the darkness swirled, a single thought gripped Lisa's core: would she lose everything if they fell? With darkness threatening to engulf them, the abyss yawned wider, cold and hungry, more terrifying than she had ever imagined. The whispers intensified, clawing at her thoughts with promises of despair. Time stretched into agonizing silence. In the grip of that swirling vortex, Lisa tightened her hold on Jake, determination sparking in her chest. "Mommy, I'm scared." Jake's voice trembled, glancing down into the chasm. The swirling shadows beckoned, each whisper heavier than the last. "No, Jake. Listen." She shouted, her heart pounding with urgency. "This isn't the end. We have the light, and it's in us. We can't let them take us." In that desperate moment, a flicker of memory ignited within her. The warmth of family gatherings flashed through Lisa's mind, her mother's laughter, the holidays filled with joy, the endless love that made the darkest days bearable. She realized they weren't just fighting the shadows, they were fighting to reclaim those connections, the light of love buried deep within their hearts. "Remember, Jake. The times we've spent together. The laughter. Remember our home." Jake's frightened eyes met hers, and for a brief moment, she saw a glimmer of understanding in the depths of his uncertainty. And with that flash, she felt the light within her surge. "Together. We can shine brighter than this darkness." The shadows writhed around them, furious at her defiance. But Lisa felt a swell of strength. She reached deep into her soul, igniting memories of every laugh, every hug, every moment of love shared, fueling the radiant energy between them. Suddenly, a powerful light erupted forth, a golden beacon born from their shared courage, casting an expanse of warmth and strength that pushed back against the shadows. The whispers turned to wails, protesting the light that grew with their resolve. "Hold on tight, Jake. We're not going to be afraid anymore." With their hands clasped together, they focused on the memories that filled their hearts, their unity shining against the darkness like a shield. The shadows faltered, recoiling as their light pulsed stronger. The creature's mouth twisted into a silent snarl as it writhed, threatened by their defiance. "Look, Mommy. It's afraid," Jake exclaimed, his voice rising in excitement. Lisa nodded, her heart glowing with fierce love. "That's right. Fear thrives in isolation, but we can cast it out. We're stronger together." Each heartbeat synchronized, amplifying the golden glow emanating from their hands. The creature, once looming, now seemed reduced in the face of their shared light. With a final, defiant shout, they hurled the memories of love and laughter outward like a wave, engulfing the shadows. The very air shuddered as the light surged forward, the darkness shrieking in agony, unraveling in the radiant glow. "Just a little bit longer," Lisa urged, feeling the weight of the dark grow lighter with every moment, a testament to the bravery ignited within them. The shadows crackled, losing their grip, retreating into the depths they had once claimed. The monstrous figure dwindled, its fear palpable as the love they shared expanded to consume it whole. In a final burst of brilliance, the veil of darkness shattered, revealing a myriad of sparkling lights, echoes of joy, the laughter of lost children now free, spiraling upward into the sky. When the light faded, they stood together in a clearing, breathing hard but full of relief. The storm had lifted, leaving a tranquil calm in its aftermath. As the first hints of dawn began to break across the horizon, Lisa and Jake collapsed into a relieved embrace, tears of joy mingling with the remnants of their fear. "You did it, Mommy," Jake said, voice thick with emotion. "No, we did it," she replied, kissing the top of his head, gratitude swelling in her chest. The night's horror had been vanquished. They would carry the light of their love forever, not just within the forest, but in every heartbeat, every moment spent together. No shadows could ever take that away. As the sun rose, illuminating their surroundings, Lisa held Jake close, a smile spreading across her face. "Let us go home now." With the first light of day breaking, they turned away from the clearing, their hearts buoyed by the strength they had found, a reminder embodying hope. Home was where the heart thrived, unyielding against any storm. And in Maplewood, the whispers of the shadows faded into gentle echoes of a lesson learned. Fear could never extinguish the light of true love. Now, before you go, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. They're coming your way, and trust me, you'll want to be part of it. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep these tales alive. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. What did you think would happen? And please, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Remember, only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.